Hello, my name is Colin Parker, and for my presentation, I decided to focus on violent crime in the NBA and how it is handled, as well as the collective bargaining agreement and some ethical issues that may be in there. So, to understand how they handle violent crime in the NBA, we first have to look at the collective bargaining agreement, and within there, we see ethical issues. The two sections that I decided to focus on in this presentation are unlawful violence and firearms. Those go very hand in hand. So to see how the CBA created the way that they handle these situations, we first have to look at what they value. This is a quote from the Players Association, stating that their three main goals are to protect the players, magnify their voices, and amplify them as leaders. So their three goals are to protect the players from exploitation. At the time this was made, players are being wrongfully banned and exploited for money. They also want to make them role models and leaders, so they want all the players to have good images as they transcend sport and society globally. So when looking at unlawful violence, it's important to understand what they consider to be unlawful violence. According to the collective bargaining agreement, anything as far as the use or threat of physical violence, the use or threat of a deadly weapon, hate crimes, or animal cruelty. So any of those fall under unlawful violence. We see that the repercussions for this include a minimum 10-game suspension and counseling for violent misconduct, therapy sessions, and there is a minimum of 5 meetings, but a player does not have to attend any more than 10. So this raises the question of, is this punishment enough to deter players from acting unethically or committing unlawful violence, as well as, is this a league or team responsibility? Because we've seen in some cases that the league will punish the player and the team will then remove them from their roster, further punishing him in their own way. Secondly, looking at firearms, the league does expect you to submit gun license and registration. But the repercussions for not doing this, as well as using firearms in a deadly way, are very unclear, but it is generally a harsher punishment than physical violence. So the ethical dilemma that we run into has its three main aspects, and starting with our value conflicts, that starts with players who value the game versus players who value the integrity, or the people that say let them play and the people that say they don't want to support criminals. And in supporting the player, that raises the question in that, is supporting them also enabling them in a way, because not punishing them and giving them that safety bubble because their player may cause bad decisions. Secondly, our alternatives are the people who want to restrict the players through suspensions, bans, and limited minutes, or the people who want to support the players through allowing these mistakes and conducting counseling and therapy. And finally, looking at the significant stakeholder consequences, we can see that the people who make money off these games will not want to restrict these players, because if more players are banned, that's less revenue for them. But fans may see this through a more emotional lens and want to restrict the players if they don't follow these rules. Looking at our current events, we have Miles Bridges, who was banned 30 games but only served 10. Ja Morant, who brandished a gun on social media twice and was banned 8 times and then the following 25 times. We have Gilbert Arenas, who was convicted of a felony of aiming a gun at a teammate in the locker room, and he was suspended for 50 games. And then we have Ron Artest, who attacked a fan in the stage, famously named Malice in the Palace for that event, and he was banned 86 games. So we can see that the violations that happen within an NBA-owned arena or area result in heavier suspensions than outside of that. And finally, our takeaways is that consistency is key. Whether you are restricting or supporting the players, it must be consistent to deter any actions that may be unethical. and that money controls decisions. Whether the league or team wants to restrict these players, it can be very hard to, because they could lose revenue and sponsorship. Thank you. Here are my slides.